Hi, welcome to a new lesson. Now I'm going to teach you how to animate a shape layer, which is really simple because it's like animating any other object on After Effects. But let's do it. Let's grab an ellipse tool and create a simple ellipse. And as you can see, we have these properties, and as I told you before, we have the transform properties where you can animate just like we animate anything else. For example, we can click on the scale property, click here on the stopwatch to create a keyframe, and now let's move forward and change this scale, and this will change. Now it's doing this weird thing to go to the center because of the anchor point. As you can see, the anchor point is right on the middle of the composition, so we need to change this anchor point, and we can do that with the pan behind tool. Just put your anchor point here on the middle of the shape, and you're good to go. Now we can animate it properly. And we have an animation as we have always done on After Effects. Now that's one way to do it, and another way is to do it inside of the shape, and that's for when we have several shapes on one layer. For example, if I have an ellipse, and a star, and a rectangle, each one of them can have a different feel. Maybe this one can be sort of like a pink, and this one can be an orange color. You can see that they all have different feels, and they are all in the same layer. And we can animate them all independently by clicking on the shape itself and transform. You can see that it says transforms rectangle. If we open this rectangle 1, so that means that we can animate this rectangle. Let's animate the rotation for the rectangle. Go to the first second and change the rotation here, and we have this animation. Now let's animate our polystar. Let's change the opacity. Click on the stopwatch and now move forward and change the opacity to 0. And we have two animations. And now for the ellipse, let's change the position. Now we have three different shapes and three different animations. As you can see, it's really simple to create some animations for the shape layer. And also, let's remove this. Let's remove all of them and stay with just one ellipse here. Alright. Now we learned how to create some things with this add. Now it's time to animate them. Let's add a pucker and bloat. You can see how it distorts the shape, and we can create nice things with it. You can see these nice shapes. This can be really cool to animate them. For example, let's leave it on 0. Maybe this starts right here. You can see that it has a stopwatch, and remember that always that one thing has a stopwatch, that means that it can be animated. So let's click on the stopwatch, and on the first second let's increase the amount to, I don't know, maybe 115, and on the next second it can be to 300, and later it will be minus 50, and so on. So when we hit play, we have this nice animation, and as you can see, all we did was to play with this poker and bloat. We didn't have to alter the shape of this ellipse or anything. We just added a cool effect called poker and bloat, and you can see that all of them can be animated. Now let's remove this poker and bloat, and let's add a repeater. A repeater, what it does is obviously to repeat the shape. Now it has 3 copies. You can create as many copies as you want. And you can animate this. Maybe you want 1 copy, and on the 3rd second we want many copies. And this will be animated too. Also with the twist, we can create a keyframe for the angle, and later we can change that angle, and let's change the center. We can play with this. And you can see how it deforms completely and creates a nice shape. Now let's delete this twist, and of course we can also animate the path. For example, let's take a look at, instead of an ellipse, let's grab a star, and on the polystar's path we can animate the radius, the inner and the outer radius. Let's click here to create a keyframe, and now let's change this, and we have this nice animation too. So as you can see, animating a shape layer is just as animating anything else, but it gives us a lot of options, because as I said, on After Effects you can customize almost anything, and it's really nice to be able to customize almost anything, because we want our work to be as accurate as possible. So you can see in these final 2 lessons, the shape layers lesson, you can see that the shape layers brings us a lot of options, and we can create wonderful things like this animation that I just created with the other ellipse. And we can create these animations without having to create several keyframes or having to change anything so drastically, just playing with these properties that After Effects has. So let's go to the next lesson of this section.